I'm sitting on a couch with a friend of mine that I met over the shared love of Formula One cars and grilled chicken. This is Matthew Cheal. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How you doing?
Good. Now, I just, before we get started, or maybe this is the start, I need to accuse you of ruining Formula One night for everybody. So to put you in the picture, many years ago when I was a much younger man, I found out that a bunch of my friends at church loved Formula One. I knew nothing about Formula One, but I was trying to connect with a few people, and they said, well, "Why don't we watch Formula One together?" So I pretended to know what they were talking about while they were talking to me. It turned into sort of 30, 40 people showing up at my place at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. It was kind of fun. This was sort of pre-kids too.
It was kind of hectic.
I think we had one toddler at the time, and that was manageable. And then it sort of turned into some sort of boys' night over time, and we would bring, a pack of Tim Tams, some Doritos and nachos, and then one day, Cheal walks into our church, and I invite him to Formula One, pretending that I know something about it at this point. He shows up, and what did you bring?
I can't remember exactly what the first one was, but I think, was it Belgium?
Sorry, you're going specifically which race?
Yeah, because the races depended on what food we brought.
Can I just say I was today years old when I learned... Really?
It was. I think the first race I came to watch with you was Belgium.
Right.
And so I bought a chocolate plate of all different things to do with chocolate.
Oh my goodness. And not only did you... I believe you bought two plates. I believe you bought a savoury plate as well.
Oh, could have. Yeah.
And you bought your own peanut sauce that you'd made for your own chicken skewers that you'd put together that afternoon. You pre-cooked the chicken skewers, but then you went into my kitchen, warmed up the peanut sauce, drizzled it on, brought it out, and there's the guys who were, all of 25 years old, their eyes lit up as if to say, this is the greatest night in history. Needless to say, Formula One night went fairly well thereafter.
Yes, it was reasonably popular, wasn't it?
You're a guy who's come from management spaces pretty much your whole life. I don't know what happened. You got out of high school and someone said, you can be in charge of the world. Is that what happened?
Well, it's a little bit of a story, but when I was 16, my father got transferred to Adelaide in his job.
That's so sad. Sorry to all our Adelaide listeners.
And so the whole family packed up and we moved to Adelaide. And at that time, there were no tech schools in Adelaide, and I had been going to tech school over here. Mm-hmm. So there was nowhere for me to go, because walking into year 11 at high school after spending, 4 years learning sheet metal and welding and things like that was not going to work.
So you would have been... So what years are we talking here?
This is, I was 16, so I was born in 72. Do the math, it was 88.
Yeah, so the tech schools were still happening.
There's tech schools in Victoria,
you'd done 7 to 10 in a tech school.
In a tech school.
So for those playing along at home that don't know what a tech school is?
It's less of the academic skills. They still do maths and science and humanities and so forth, but you could learn engineering or automotive, a very extensive woodworking program.
If I got to go to school and play with a MIG welder, I'd be up for that.
Yeah. And so I learned a lot of skills there that I still use today.
Yeah.
Just little handy things like how to weld and stuff. But when we got to Adelaide, there was no school for me to go to. And so AMP, who Dad worked for, pulled some strings and got me into a course at what they called college over there, which was kind of almost like what we'd call a TAFE nowadays. And I did a year of electrical engineering there and hated it.
Right.
Bored me to tears. And so at the end of that year, I was sitting at home doing nothing and for 3 or 4 months and didn't know what to do and so forth. And in the end, I went and got a job at Macca's.
Yeah, right.
Because there was a new store opening and they were hiring, and I thought, I'll take this until I find something else.
Yeah. And how many years later?
18 and a half years later,
Yeah.
I left there after working in many different roles and so forth. But
you ended up managing multiple stores there for a while.
Yeah, I developed a little bit of a skill of fixing broken stores or unprofitable stores. I had a little bit of a knack for turning those around and so forth. So I worked for a number of the larger licensees, guys that owned, 5, 6
multiple stores, yeah,
and they had one that wasn't working properly. I'd go in, spend a year or two there, and turn it around and fix it, and then go somewhere else.
The reason I asked the question is because essentially you and I have worked on several projects over the years. Right now we're working on essentially a fix-it church. Yeah. And you've come alongside and you bring those management skills with you, but you learnt them. You're not afraid of hard work. You pretty much give anything a go as far as I can tell. And you don't mind gently helping people understand what they're not good at.
Gently is probably a skill that still needs a little bit of polishing from time to time. But over time, I've learnt to temper my enthusiasm for change a little. But look, it's there. And after Macca's, I decided a little bit of a tree change type scenario and went and worked in a community service organisation for a decade or so. And then as a result of a merger and some change there, my position was redundant, and I then went and worked for Australian Unity for 7 years before once again being made redundant.
And so right now we're talking to you in another period of major change.
Yeah.
Yeah, this season on Father Figures, we've talked a lot about navigating change. I don't know if you'd say expertly navigated or just basically you found yourself multiple times over and over in spaces that change just smacked you in the face.
Yes, that's putting it lightly, I think. But I think a couple of things helps balance it a little bit. A lot of change in my personal life over the years, but also the work I've done has helped me build some of those change management skills in terms of how I approach it and recognise it and deal with it within myself.
You're a parent now.
Yes.
You've married to Susan, father to Holly, but that itself represents major points of change in your life.
Yeah.
Just to catch us up, because we can talk about our parenting in a minute, but essentially what I'm interested in is how your development of work skills really correlates, because I do think there's a correlation. If you're learning, if you're a lifelong learner and you're determined to learn from the waves that crash, then you can apply that to work, or vice versa. Those things can work in concert. So you start out 16, 17 years old, bored at home in Adelaide, take a job with Macca's, you're frying chips. Somewhere along the line, you must enter the management training course and you get involved there.
Yeah, so we were in Adelaide for 2 years or so. And I was busy working away, cooking hamburgers and so forth. And I'd built myself up a little bit in that time into, the senior crew ranks or the senior.
What colour badge was that?
Well, no.
There was always coloured badges, isn't there?
The first step up is what they call crew trainer, which is kind of like a senior person. And then they have the crew chief, which is in charge of...
Do you get a hat?
Area. No, you get a different badge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there you go into the junior management ranks and so forth. But at that time we moved back to Victoria because my father got transferred back to Victoria again, which wasn't unusual in the exec ranks at AMP. They moved people around the country quite a lot. And, for all its warts, Adelaide probably served me well as much as,
Yeah, well, it was a place...
If anyone asks me, I say it's probably one of the worst places on earth. But,
we love you, Adelaide. I love Adelaide. It's okay.
Well, I don't mind Adelaide either.
Was the Formula One running there at the time?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's the Formula One connection.
And we lived in the Adelaide Hills. And one of the common jokes we sort of tell you is, we lived in the second house on the right.
Yeah.
Which was almost true. As you come down the big hill into Adelaide, you sort of turned off, and we were just up there in the hills. But we could not quite see the cars, but we could definitely hear them from
the V12s back in the day.
Oh yeah, they resonated
I should ask,
right up.
siblings. Would you have siblings?
I have two sisters,
Two-
one older, one younger.
And did they travel at that time with the family
Yes.
too, or were they a bit? No,
Yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
my older sister's 2 years older than me, so she was just turning 18
Yeah.
when we left, and my recollection was not particularly happy about the move. I don't think any of us were, but
Because I talk to, obviously, army kids. There's a whole lot of professions that parents have that move, that still move families around the country. Do you look back on that and think you've adjusted for that in your parenting now? Because as far as I know, you've stayed in the same city
yes,
the whole time.
yeah. Well, we've been in Geelong the whole time for parenting. We're married to Susan, who won't move out of Geelong.
Right. Okay. So that's
she's anchored here.
Yeah. Sure.
And that's for a number of reasons. She's very close with her family. She has a very close relationship with her sister, and they're almost twins, even though they're not. And her parents and so forth. And they're aging a little and need a bit more help and support and things like that. So,
but that wouldn't have ever come into it anyway. Geelong. She's a homebody.
She's a Torquay girl who ventured up into Geelong, and I think that's probably as far from there as what she's.
But for you growing up, and it just feels very familiar because I grew up in a family that moved a lot. My wife didn't. We've stayed in the same city since we got married.
Yes.
So there's some familiar patterns there.
So we moved to Adelaide and then back, and then I moved out of home not long after that, and I lived in many different little houses, renting
Hovels.
units and things. And then purchased different types of homes over the time to live in. So,
but from the get-go, you've got a financial mind and a management mind, and so from a very young age, you've bought property and you've started to sell property and start to understand how that sort of stuff works. So you've kind of got that. For me, when I talk to someone like you, these are skills that I've never had. I often look around and think, well, who are the people that I need in my life? It's Matthew Cheal's. But that doesn't mean for all of the things you could control, there are a bunch of things you can't.
yes.
And that's where the risk management and the helping, the fixing part comes into it.
Yeah, I kind of fell into risk management in some respects because I'd done.
Sorry,
that's
can
very
everyone just
poor
pick up on the
English.
irony of falling into risk management? Sorry, that's it. That was dad joke number one for this episode. There we go.
There you go. We'll pull out a couple more.
Go,
as we
go.
The job of risk manager at St Lawrence Community Services came up at the time that I was looking to make a step away from McDonald's, and I had literally no idea what that meant at the time. But somehow I landed that job and had to learn on my feet very quickly about what that type of thing was. But also there was a lot of change that happened in that organisation. There was a lot of turmoil amongst the senior leaders and the board and so forth, not long after I started. And we lost a number of board members and almost the entire executive group.
Whoa.
In the space of a couple of months.
Yeah.
And so a whole new team came in, and one of them was a new CEO who rather quickly decided that he wanted a lot of change in the organisation.
Which had already gone through a lot of change in that.
It had already gone through some change there, but
Yeah.
we're talking structural change in how the organisation operated. It was a very old school charity mindset. You'll be grateful for what we give you and so forth, which isn't the modern version of a not-for-profit. And so I spent a lot of time leading and working in different areas of the organisation, being that change agent of turning the culture and the way that part of the organisation operated. Essentially, sometimes being the hatchet man or the bad guy,
Right.
and forcing change on things. And then he'd move me out of there and put someone else in who could be the nice
guy.
The nice guy patching up all of the rough edges that I'd created in the change. So I moved around a fair bit there, and then landed in the housing portfolio, which once again needed a lot of change and so forth. And that's sort of where I left there. But that in between all those different roles, I ran risk and strategy and so forth for the organisation. So built that up.
The good guy, bad guy, because a lot of parents would feel this way about even, because again, I'm seeing all sorts of parallels, but the good guy, bad guy, I've found myself, especially in the last, I don't know, in the last decade of my life, realising that I really wanted to be the good guy in people's worlds, especially being the creative. I bring music, I bring those things, I can make people laugh, those sorts of things. But I also tend to call spades what they are. I would describe it as I walk into a room and say, hey guys, there's a spade there. And they go, where? I go, there, that's a spade, you know. Calling a spade is part of, if you've got that leadership DNA, you have to do it, because it kind of burns you up if you don't. Yeah. I'm sure you walk into, even today, would you walk into a McDonald's restaurant and just spot things around the place that you'd want to change?
Yes. You walk in nowadays and sometimes you go, oh, they're good. They're doing all right.
Yeah.
Other times you walk in and go, this is appalling. Who's running this? But that's just because after 18 years, you're ingrained into this mindset. It's one of the things. My wife hates it, and I'll tell you about that story in a minute. But when you go through a drive-through and they hand the bag out to you, the bag's supposed to have a double fold. You fold it once, you fold it again, and then you hand it out.
Which creates a little handle.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. So I sit there and I sit, since they hand me the bag, and then I put it in.
Because someone came in and said, efficiency, just get the bag out the window?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Or they're lazy or whatever. No one's watching, so they just hand it out. But it's so ingrained in my head that when they give me the bag, I have to fold it and put it away.
Oh, we'll just stop now for a hug. I hope the therapy's working.
The other parts of my OCD that my wife hates is clothes pegs. You have to have the right colour clothes pegs for the garment that you put on. So if you're hanging up a blue garment, you use blue pegs. I'm
speed dialing some friends.
Too much of that.
That's great. But there's a whole lot of people listening going, yes, that.
And shopping at Aldi.
Yeah.
When they scan the things and what have you, I put them out of the trolley onto the conveyor belt
in the order that you want to pack.
I want them packed in the bag.
Come on. Because you've got to pack them yourself anyway.
Yeah, and the food, you don't put soft, squishy things on the bottom. You know, I get very passionate, and my wife hates me for it, and she gets very embarrassed because I've been known to tell the cashier off. And unpack things and repack them properly and so forth.
Welcome back to Grumpy Old Man 101.
Yes.
But essentially you've been embracing Grumpy Old Man for a long time now. So, but I do love what you're describing, because essentially all of these little finicky habits that we have do describe how we think about the world and how we see the world. So the management, the restructure, the tidy up, the fix it up kind of person, because I know that you're a guy that will go, you know, need a new pool fence. How do I build a pool fence? What tools do I need? I'll go get the tools and the materials and I'll make it happen. And now we've talked about, you obviously started in tech school, but when it comes to the humans don't sort of work that way, do they?
No, they don't. And it's very frustrating for them.
So the rather than automatons, you've got real flesh and blood people that you've dealt with. And you got married. You got married early, didn't you?
Not so much early. Well, not so much early. I was 23.
Okay.
But my wife was only slightly over 18 at the time. So she was 5 years also younger than me.
And that was you in Melbourne?
Yes. Yeah.
And that didn't last, that one?
No, it didn't. Unfortunately, things change and people change, and you know, my wife was not as committed to the marriage as I was.
Had some other friends.
He had some other friends who were also my friends, but
okay.
And so forth. But yes. So anyway, that didn't last.
How long was that? How long was that journey?
We were together for 7 years, married for 5, I think.
So when you look back at that, and you've dealt with it, you've moved on very, very, very well. You know, you've rebuilt after that, and you found a beautiful wife.
Yes.
Again. What did you learn in that season? Can you look back at young Matt and go, this was, you know, I wanted it to work, it didn't work. I'm sure you went through a season of going, what did I do wrong? And
yeah, I think all that. You know, it hit me hard at the time. You feel like a failure, and things along those lines. I lived on my couch for about a year.
Mm.
I don't think I entered my bedroom.
Wow.
The door was closed and I didn't go in. My clothes were in the laundry. They'd get washed and put on the bench and I'd find them and iron them or what have you. Literally didn't enter the bedroom for a year. Also lived on the couch and so forth. So
just because of the anxiety that came about because of it.
Couldn't walk into the room.
Yeah.
Didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I was renovating the house at that point, so I had floors up and walls down and all kinds of things. So it was a bit of a mess, but that at least gave me something to turn my mind to.
I was going to say the coping mechanism of doing, and look, I think it's fairly strong in the male of the species. My thing, I've talked about it on the pod before. I'll if the kids see me cleaning with very finicky detail, they know Dad's. I don't even know what I'm processing. I just know I have to.
Yeah.
For you, it's the change. You actually went and go, I'm going to change this house. I'm going to improve this house. That's going to take my attention.
Yeah, I think I cope with things by using my hands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Stress is not something that normally affects me greatly. Like I don't feel stressed with things that are going on. I think I have the ability to build little compartments that I can put the stress into in my mind, for the most part, and leave it sit there. Work's work and home's home, and those sort of things don't breach. But working with my hands, doing things, is relaxing to me. It helps me process things. I decided at some point to teach myself how to blacksmith.
Cool.
I've got a forge and an anvil, and I heat things up and hit them with a hammer. And I'm not very good at it, but
yeah,
it's something.
But it gets the energy out. So, I mean, did you know that you were doing therapeutic things for yourself?
I didn't at the start.
Yeah.
It was just what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'd be up till midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, plastering or doing something. Then I'd sleep for a few hours and get up and go to work, and come home and do the same thing again. That was just my life at the time.
That was all in that grief recovery process. Yeah.
But as I've grown older, I've recognised it a little bit more, and sometimes even actively do it. Okay, I'm getting a little bit tense here. I'm going to do something.
What happens to Matthew if he doesn't get that outlet?
I think probably not a lot externally. Like if you were looking at me, you probably wouldn't pick it very much. I don't think. My wife can a little bit sometimes, but I have
You got a good poker face.
Yeah, it sort of, you get this simmering anger and sit there, but deep down, and bottle it up and package it up and stick it somewhere, which is what a lot of men do.
And I guess maybe fast forward to today, you must be better at letting that go now. You must have learnt some skills. Because, I mean, we can talk about compartmentalisation, and obviously, again, the male of the species is well known for that stuff. I've never lived, as you know me fairly well, I don't really live with a lot of boundaries. That's not me. But again, hanging out with people that do. Because again, the equal and opposite for me, meeting people that lived with boundaries, I didn't understand. I realised after a while that I was hanging out with all these people that would say no to staying up late or doing the other thing or adding a third thing to their day or whatever it was. I've grown up with a position of say yes, figure it out later. And I know we could, again, you could probably argue the same point for you, but I do see you've created lines, created demarcation. And that might just be a personality build. You could probably see it in your father yourself.
Yeah.
But as far as a coping mechanism, obviously we know that compartmentalisation over the long term can have pretty damaging effects.
Yes, it can. And I think learning to deal with those things at some point in your journey, just because you package it up into a little box and stick it somewhere doesn't mean it goes away. And at some point you've got to come back and unpack those things and deal with them. And I think I've learnt to do that over the last couple of years, especially. But things always change, and we're never really finished.
There's no stasis, is there? There's no point where we go, oh, that's it, and now I'll work on Matthew at age 40. No, he's changed. I'll work on him at 42. So the first marriage fails.
Yeah. Somewhere
along the line, you get the courage up to try again.
Yeah.
What does it take to do that? Because plenty of people listening have done that, but I've never walked that journey. So
I don't know. I think the loneliness pushes you.
Right.
I was living in Geelong because that's where my house was. And after the first marriage, I bought my wife out, and so the house was mine, and so forth. I was kind of locked in because half the house had been pulled down, and you can't really sell half a house.
Turns out, yeah.
So I had to finish it, and so I was there by myself, day in, day out. The only sort of time I left was to go to the shops or go to the
go to Bunnings.
Work.
Yeah.
All the rest of my go to Bunnings. All the rest of my time was spent at home, and so at some point you go, just sitting here by myself all the time. It'd be nice to.
What's the difference between feeling like understanding I'm lonely now, because you obviously move into a space where you need some time to get your head straight, that sort of thing. And so that might have been a deliberate choice, although it was forced upon you.
Yeah.
And then you essentially live a little bit of a hermit life there for a while. The line between I need some time out and now I feel lonely, was that a very distinctive change for you?
No, I think it's a big fat grey blurry line.
Yeah, but at some point you thought this is not healthy for me.
Yeah, at some point you've processed your grief a little bit, and you're ready to get back in the world. It just kind of happens.
You'll be ready when you're ready.
You start going, someone says, you want to go to the pub? Instead of saying no, you say yes.
Right.
And you go,
oh, I just said yes.
I'm going to have to go home and iron some clothes. Because
I don't know any other bloke that's ever thought that, by the way. Do you want to go to the pub? I'll go home and iron some clothes. I'm not ready. But I love that, because for you that's important. That's a processing tool.
When you live by yourself as a man and you wash your clothes, basically when you run out, and then you stick them in the dryer and they do the thing and they end up in a pile on the laundry bench, and you look pretty tatty if you don't iron a shirt before you go out. But
there you go.
If you don't go out for a year or more, you don't really need to iron the shirt.
You're trying to find the shirt
to work.
That's it. Can I just recommend to everyone black t-shirts? Works every time. Yeah. So, because loneliness is we're calling it an epidemic right now.
Yeah, I can see that.
When you look at, obviously, we could jump all around the place here, but you meet Susan, you get married, you've got a friend, you've got a partner in life again. Do you remember if that deleted the loneliness altogether, or was there? Did you find it complex?
What I found difficult was not so much that it was differentiating in my mind the difference between Susan and my previous wife.
Wow.
And telling myself again that I have no reason not to trust Susan.
Wow.
Because I had a lot of trust issues from the first marriage.
Yeah.
And I keep having to tell myself over and over and over again, no, Susan's different.
She is not her.
She's not her. And I don't need to be worried when Susan goes out of the house or does something or what have you. So it took me quite a while to nail that down. And Susan's never given me any reason not to trust her, and that part of my life is closed. But it took a while, and it took active effort.
I love that. So actively you're telling yourself, I can trust this person. Yes. This person has done nothing.
Yeah.
It's my previous experience. That's from my past. Yeah. It's affecting my now. It
needs to be closed off. Yeah. And, and if you ask Susan, hopefully, she would never know that. She might now if she listens to this, but...
You've got your poker face on the whole time?
Yes.
As far as you know.
and so forth. And so, it just took a lot in the initial stages to make sure that I wasn't portraying distrust to her.
Which is massive. Because again, then, once you've kind of worked on the trust between you and your wife, and this goes for any couple, because that takes some time, and especially if you've come into the relationship with some shadows and some ghosts, as they say, you've done that sort of self-improvement thing, I guess. Now you're trying to connect, to become one again. And then you think, we might try for a child.
Yeah.
Which wasn't an easy journey for you. Wasn't as simple as, let's have a child. Great, good.
No, it wasn't easy, but I must say it was much more difficult for Susan.
Sure.
And so forth. So we got married and did our honeymoon and so forth. And in actual fact, it was a little bit sneaky because we'd booked the holiday before I proposed. And
this plan could have spectacularly failed.
To Susan, it was a holiday. And then I sort of proposed, and there's a little bit of a funny story behind that proposal too.
Oh yeah,
I had it all planned out,
as you would. I'm thinking there's a document, there's a binder somewhere with how and tabulated formulas of how to propose.
I had the ring and all that. It was on a necklace that was tied around the neck of a teddy bear, which was in a lovely box.
You
and
big schmaltzy guy.
So forth.
Love it.
And we went out to lunch, and my plan was to sneak away through lunch and bring the box out and go, I bought you something. So I thought you'd like it. But lo and behold, we're sitting at the restaurant, and on the next table over is my ex-wife and her family. So that put a little bit of a dampener on the environment. And
this is a sitcom script. That's great.
And I'd organise, this was during the week, I'd organised with her boss for her to have the afternoon off and so forth. Oh my God. So I go, what am I going to do? I'm not doing this now.
This is a Douglas Adams, infinity impossibility.
Yeah. So in the end, after lunch, I packed her up into the car and we drove down to Point Danger in Torquay, and I did it there. Did the proposal there, and I found this box I thought you might like. And she's looking at it, she goes, it's a nice box. I'm going, you're going to open it?
Open the box.
Open it. It's got a bear in it. Oh, that's lovely. And, eventually she saw the ring on the necklace, and I won't tell you exactly what she said, but
is it a bit more than PG rated?
It was a little bit more than PG rated, but anyway,
we can beep it out.
There was the proposal, and she's going, okay. And I said, how about we make that Hawaii trip the honeymoon? And she's gone, we got a lot to organise then, haven't we?
There you go. We went into management mode.
Yeah.
So, well, congratulations. What year are we talking there?
Oh, don't put me on
Sorry,
the
it doesn't matter. It was a while ago.
Yes.
Basically
17 years.
And you guys decided kids were on the cards. Neither of you had children at that point. And the journey is not one of simply creating a child yourselves.
No. We lost our first baby a few weeks after coming back from the honeymoon. And for the next couple of years, we went through a lot of ups and downs and so forth. It was at that point we decided to try IVF because things weren't happening for us. And over the period of that, we did 11 rounds of IVF. And Holly, our daughter, was round 8. And we did a couple more after, trying to go for another, but that didn't eventuate. But we were very blessed with what we got.
How much does it take out of you, again, speaking to all the couples that have had fertility treatments and whatever, and I know no two journeys are the same, but I'm sure you went into that thinking, we'll give this a go, and you're full of energy, and we'll give it a go.
You do. You go into it like that, and no one tells you what it's like.
Could anyone have told you?
Yeah, probably, but I'm not sure that at that point you would hear them.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Right?
You've got no context to hear the information,
yeah, you
right?
do. You do a couple of sessions with psychologists, and they talk about things and so forth. What you're not prepared for is the roller coaster, the high of highs and the lows of lows. As you go through the journey, and your listeners might not know a whole lot about the process, but you do an egg collection part first, which requires the female to be injected with these terribly strong hormones. And it's hard to describe, but they literally change the personality of the person. They become a different person to the one you married. Just the way they act, the way they talk, the way they speak, the way they make decisions.
Because hormones kind of...
They are a different person. Wow. And the stress of what that must put on the female's body is intense. Then you have to go in and have surgery and collect them, and they do the thing in the lab, and you come out of surgery and they go, "Oh, it's great, we got 12 eggs," and you go, "Oh, that's excellent." And then 2 days later they tell you that only 4 are left, and you go, "What happened to the others? Didn't work."
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later after that, at the 5 to 7 day mark, you go in and you have an egg implant. And they put the others in the freezer. And so from that moment on...
So already you've been...
Yeah, you're already
all over the place. You're sort of at home with your wife, but she's kind of, this different person. But
when we say different person, that's kind of...
That's probably too strong of a...
No, it's being very generous.
Oh, okay, wow.
They're a nutbag.
Wow.
Susan knows this, and she's not going to be offended by me saying that.
I hope not, yeah.
Because...
But this is the point.
This is what these drugs do.
But speaking about it so plainly, I think is really helpful, because I would never... We didn't have to go through that journey. I've certainly got friends that do and have and are going through that journey. But this is kind of the point. Even if someone had told you that's what's going to happen, there's no context for...
No context for it. You don't...
Yeah. And this is all in the pursuit of becoming a parent.
Yeah.
So there's this beautiful ideal. We want to become a parent. But to do that, we're going to have to stretch ourselves beyond our emotional, physical, whatever we've done before.
Yeah. And so your wife comes out of the egg implantation process, which is pretty horrendous for them in the first place, and she's pregnant. And everything's wonderful. You're happy, blah, blah, blah. And over the next 2 weeks, at some point...
The body says yes or no?
Yeah. You change from being pregnant to not being pregnant.
Yeah.
Or you don't know, and you have to go in and do blood tests, and then wait for the phone call. And there's a show on telly that shows people's journeys through this, and you see them waiting for the phone call. And you do. The nurse from the centre rings up and either says, "I'm sorry," or "Congratulations." And you've gone from high to high, thinking perhaps you are, because nothing's changed in your wife's body, to being slapped down again. And then you've got to start over.
And then catch your breath. All the while you're holding down jobs, you're paying the mortgage, real life's going on, trying to have friendships.
And trying to take care of your wife, who all of a sudden feels like a complete failure again, because she's lost another baby. And you can't do anything. You're just a man who doesn't comprehend what that's like. You can see the pain on them. You can cuddle them. You can reassure them. You can go down the street and buy them a 6-pack of cruisers or, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't understand what that does. You can see what it does, but you don't fully understand it.
16-year-old Matty learnt to work with his hands, learnt to fix things, learnt to make things. He's managed restaurants. He's moved through a couple of industries. He's rebuilt his life a couple of times. And you've got no skill to deal with this.
No, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you're doing that time after time after time. And then you have the season where you go through all the pre-workup processes and drugs and things to get ready, and you're getting in the car to go to implantation, and you get a call and saying, sorry, the embryo didn't make it out of the freezer. It died on the table.
Whatever, yeah.
So the whole thing's off again.
Yeah.
So you start over. You start over and you start over.
I met you guys somewhere in the early 2000s, I think. And we hung out a couple of times, but I remember coming over to visit one day, and it was one of those days.
Yeah. You bought chocolate biscuits and
Did
tea.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Cool.
I remember that because neither of us drink tea.
Oh, see, and just for everybody listening, to give you context, Susan is a mad collector of teacups.
But doesn't drink tea.
I just assumed that tea went in them.
Yeah.
Anyway, pastoral lesson 101. Never assume anything. Chocolate's usually a safe bet, but even then. I remember walking in and thinking, in my pastoral work, I do end up in some fairly intimate spaces with people, in emotional spaces. That particular day is sort of etched in my mind, except I forgot about the tea. As one of those moments where I knew to say very little.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you guys opened the door and let me in. Do you remember? Do you remember what it felt like to let people in to that space?
I think that's probably one of the ways that we learned to cope with it, was to be very open about the journey we've had, and talk to people about what we were going through and our experience of it and so forth. It's something that we've always done because we didn't have anyone who did that for us.
Right.
No one spoke openly and honestly to us about it. And it could be none of our friends had been through that.
Sure.
And so forth. But I think it's probably one of the ways we coped best, was to let it all out, to tell people.
But again, letting people in, obviously people want to come in and find an answer for you or find the right words to say. Do you remember moments where you think, oh man, I shouldn't have let that go away? You're getting it all wrong.
No, I think there's probably some times where people said the wrong thing or something, but I think we were okay enough to know that they weren't saying that with malice. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't an attack or anything like that. It was just that they didn't have understanding of the situation enough to adjust what they said. And so we just sort of took that on and brushed it off and moved on.
Change management is kind of your whole life's experience, as far as I can tell. You've done that in, you've had to fire people, hire people, change internal structures in organisations, so on and so forth. Is there a correlation that is there anything you picked up from understanding the humans in the workspace that helped you in this kind of space, in the home space, of knowing when not to speak, knowing what to do, what not to do? Or is this just the humans are just different and you got to do it differently at home?
You do have to do it differently at home, but I think I've learnt some skills, and I think I've also learnt compassion and empathy.
Well, of course, yeah.
And that comes from working in the community service space and so forth. And there are a number of people out there who, over time, have helped shave some of the rough edges off my approach to things and taught me, bits around dealing with people who are experiencing difficulties in their life. We worked in a disability service organisation, aged care, all those type of things where people are experiencing different aspects of life that I don't have any experience in dealing with. People with intellectual disabilities and people who are experiencing dementia and all those type of things. And a lot of very smart and very caring people have taught me different ways of approaching situations with more compassion and with more empathy and so forth. And I think that brings into my family life too. And I think I can recognise now when my wife or my daughter are experiencing something that's making them upset or agitated or so forth. And I think I can empathise and show a bit more compassion than what old Matthew might have.
Yeah.
Because of some of those experiences. I can see things from different people's perspectives within the house.
You go into
Not all the time.
Sure. No. Yeah. And this is, I mean, that's the caveat is, of course, that we do our best with the skills we've got. I think the frustrating thing for me along the journey is when I think about that moment where you go, we're going to try IVF. That's come out of a period of grief already.
Yeah.
Because the natural way didn't work. You lost a child, and that's a lot of couples, of course, experience that part. But without the valley, without the sadness, without the darkness, you don't learn these skills.
No, you do learn more from things not going right than from things that work. And that's always been the way, I think, when I look back on my career. You always learn more from making mistakes than you do from getting it right the first time. But conversely, no, it's not conversely. I also think you learn more from working for a bad manager than you do working for a good manager.
Because you don't know with a good manager what they're doing to cover you.
Yes, but you also learn what not to do. We don't talk to people like that. We don't treat people like that. We don't make those type of decisions because this is what happens. And so when you get into a position to make decisions that are similar, those things stand out in your mind. Well, if you make the decision that way, this is what happens, so we'll do something different. And that also plays a little bit into your parenting.
I was going to say, so then you bring that into your parenting space and you think the child has the understanding of, wait for it, a child. And I continually have to tell myself that.
Last time I did this, that happened.
Yeah.
That wasn't the intended outcome. So next time you're faced with a situation, okay, well, let's try something a little bit different or a little bit softer or a little bit this or a little bit that. You learn more from mistakes and bad things because they're what creates strong memories.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And that's what sticks in your head. When you did something great, that was excellent. And it goes. But when you did something and you got a really bad result from it, you remember that.
Are you naturally predisposed to not, because you don't seem like a guy that would beat yourself up for your mistakes.
You just don't say it.
Okay. So for me, I think I probably more sit in the category of I replay them too many times and try to go back and fix them. And I'm a little older now, a little wiser now. I understand that, playing the morality play out in my mind doesn't change the outcome of what happened 20 years ago. But for you, bringing all of those fail forward, fail fast, those kind of ideas into parenting, I think it's hard to explain if you've not parented yet. We're praying for you, and we'll try to explain it to you before you get there. But
we won't do a very good job.
But we won't do a very good job because I can never find a way to explain the whiplash of the decision you have to make. 30 seconds ago, the household was calm and everything was fine, and now it's not.
Yeah, and
you might not be running on 100% battery on that day too. What happens for Matty when he's on 25% battery? Everything was happy in the household, and just it changes. Where do you reach?
That's when I usually make the mistake.
Right. That's the truth of it, right?
Yeah. That's when I act in a way that I don't want to act, or make a decision the wrong way, or the stubbornness in me comes out, or, various things. When I'm, exhausted or tired or low or whatever, it's when you lose the wider lens that you can see and go, okay, well, that person's acting this way because of that, and this person's acting this way because of that. And so when I dive in and do my dad thing,
do you fix it thing? Yeah.
I don't do it right, and this person's now upset and that person's now upset, and the whole thing just explodes in boom, because I wasn't there.
In your mind, why is it easier for you to walk into a workplace, see the issues clearly, and go about changing them, compared to home? How do you? Because I mean, we all know that.
Yeah.
But do you know how to describe that?
I think it's a little bit of, in some ways, it's a mandate. If you're sent in there in a leadership position,
yes,
you have a mandate to change things and to make things better. And the people who are there in that workplace are expecting you to make decisions and do stuff. At home, it's a little bit different because you're not necessarily the boss. You're somewhere in the pecking order.
Sorry, just say that again. You're not necessarily the boss.
And it changes.
It does change moment to moment.
Sometimes I'm ahead of the dog, and other times I'm not. In the hierarchical structure of home. Whereas I know where I am when I walk into a workplace.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm sent there to do a job, and hopefully I know what that job is, and I'm reasonably competent at it. And then I can make those decisions, and sometimes those decisions are not easy. It's not easy to terminate someone's employment or
shuffle them to a lower position or whatever,
or do what have you.
Yeah.
And I've been on the receiving end of that a couple of times now, being made redundant. But you go home with some grief over those type of things, and you weigh them up and have I made the right decision and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're the boss and you've got to make that decision. You don't get to go home and go, sorry, you're terminated. I'll bring a new one in because you're not doing the job I think you're doing.
Unfortunately, I think I know some men that have tried running their lives that way, but haven't they? Like you've seen men that have tried to go, I'll just replace this and I'll replace the humans,
It doesn't work.
No, because wherever you are, there you are.
Yeah.
And
generally, if you need to do that, it's probably your fault in the first place anyway. But.
So what is you're a man of faith, you're a Christian man.
Yeah.
You're a churchy, as I describe it, because there is a difference between someone who identifies with Christian faith and someone who does church.
Yeah.
But the shape of the home, what is your mandate? If you were to put it that way, could you describe what a father's mandate is in the home? I think those words.
I think the father's mandate is stability to some extent. We have, when we were first married, and eventually when Holly was coming along and Susan was pregnant, we made the decision that Susan would stay home and raise Holly.
Which is not her. She's a hard worker too.
Yes,
she loves
very much
hard work as well.
But we decided that over the journey and how much we've been up and down, we were going to sacrifice 2 incomes and so forth to have a parent at home with Holly the whole time. And I don't necessarily recall all the reasons why we made that decision, but part of it was we'd fought so hard for this, and Susan had been through so much that we were going to make the most of it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we fell into almost that 1960s, 1970s family structure where Dad went off to work each day and Mum stayed home and did the thing. And that has its ups and downs and its frustrations and all kinds of things for Susan that I don't experience, and all the running around. And I think when I came home and so forth, my job was to try and smooth the waves a little bit and take some pressure off and make things stable. And that's probably somewhat continued on for that. It was just because I'm not there as much. I am recently.
More recently, but again, more change management.
That was kind of, I think, my job was to come in and just calm the waters of the day and try and take some pressure off and just make things nice.
I like that. I like the idea of making things nice, even though nice is a vague term. I think the words you hit on before were compassion and empathy, and you learnt compassion and empathy through, processes of pain that made you see that, even someone with my skill set, even someone that's got it all together as well as you knew it at the time, life can slap you around, no matter how well prepared you are.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the change management part of you managing you, and especially when you say, hey, I've got a good poker face, I don't think my wife can actually tell even now sometimes when I'm actually boiling under the skin sometimes, that feels like something that you've, I guess, what's the word? You've mastered that somewhat, whether that's a good or a bad thing. So I guess what's the journey at the moment teaching you about just being that little bit more vulnerable? Because that's what I think I'm observing in you at the moment is there's a space where you're thinking, I've got to be a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more, I can be the stabilizing, non-anxious presence, but I need people to understand that I'm a bit anxious. I'm a bit unstable as well. I need someone to do that for me.
Yeah. I think this recent season in my life has taught me that. And I think as we grow older, hopefully we become a little bit wiser. And the bravado of youth starts to dissipate a little bit. And for me, I think I start to resonate even more with my father, myself. I've said it a couple of times in different sort of things, but my father has been, I suppose, my role model for how to be a father. And, I try very hard to live up to that standard, because my father was a very kind and generous and loving man and so forth. And he's set a very high bar for me to live up to. And I think one of the things in my life is always sort of comparing myself. And I see a lot of him in me as I get older.
Of course, yeah.
Facially.
Oh, well, you're looking in the mirror,
so
like,
forth.
who's that
You're
guy?
looking in
It's
the
my
mirror
dad,
and,
yeah.
But also in mannerisms and the things that come out of my mouth from time to time and go, oh, that was my dad that just said that, not me. So I think I learn a lot from him as well. But also, I think just coming to terms with the fact that I don't have to be perfect. I can have troubles. I can have issues. I don't have to project perfection to the world. And I think that realization helps me at this moment in my life.
Because we laugh about some of the little OCD idiosyncrasies and we've all got them, but some of the ones you described do feel like I like to have the ducks in a row. You're in a feeling of peace for you, or a feeling of I've finished the day well would be a full stop on sentences. But as life has progressed, less and less sentences get ended. The stories are often unsatisfactory in their conclusions. And now you're looking back at the loving father, and you're blessed, to have. Not everyone has that, but the idea of even living up to that, I don't think you're telling me that as a pressure. That's just a beautiful goal to have, to live up to.
Yeah, sometimes I feel the pressure.
Okay,
sometimes
right.
I feel.
Okay, well, let that go.
Yeah, perhaps my dad might have handled that situation better. Maybe I should learn some lessons. But I think I'm old enough to go move on. But. It's always good to have something to
I think
to look up to and guide us.
A reference guide. And as you said, in some of the stuff where you let people into your pain, and I was one of those people back in the day, you've understood for a long time that you need to be the only way to get through is to share the burden. Yeah. And I think the learning done and it sounds like you've learned that in multiple intersections in your journey, but it's a continual lesson maybe for you. Yeah. Of let somebody else give you compassion. Let somebody else give you the empathy. Let somebody else sit silently without the answers, but be the person that's there for you.
But that's always the hardest part for me. Yep. Because I always saw that as my role. my role is to be the person who sits there with someone, or helps them through, or to guide them, or to do this, or to give the advice, or to do that. And I've always been a little uncomfortable with that.
And we come back to the mandate of the organisation, and your community is not as organised as you would like ever. Your family, there's no org chart when you walk in the door. I like to say, whatever room you walk into, you'll play a Matthew role. I know you will. But if there's not something on the org chart anymore, that's okay too. You can find your way to the back of the room or the front of the room depending on what's needed. And I think that flexibility, that's where empathy and compassion really comes to the fore, is where you think, if I'm loved by a God who created me, I've read my Bible, if those words are true, if I'm knit together in my mother's womb and he knows every hair on my head and every step that I take, and he sees the sparrow that falls and the flowers that grow and fade, if he sees me in that intricacy, then I can find some warmth and comfort in that, depending on the day.
Yes.
Because I actually need the other humans to help me feel that too. But to feel that, you have to let the other humans in.
You do.
You do.
And the more you do let people in, the slightly easier it becomes. But for some of us, it's still never a simple thing. Sometimes it's always a challenge, and you have to actively sit there and think about how you let people in.
Well, you've had a lot of broken trust in your life too, and you've had to rebuild from those places. But I do get the sense that you're not a life sucks, suck it up, get on with it kind of guy. You might do that for yourself, but when you walk into other spaces, you're gentle with others. You allow them to talk about how life's terrible. Here's my burden.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I'll go to the male of the species, which quite typically is less skilled at sharing, less skilled at saying, I need help. One of the most, powerful questions you can ask is, help? One of the most powerful confessions you can make is, I need help.
Yeah.
One of the most powerful walks you can make is allow someone to see your limp and walk alongside them anyway. Allow someone to help you along with your limp. Yeah. I don't think, the point over and over, and I don't want to be cliche about this, but everybody's walking with a limp. You just might not be able to see it.
Yes, exactly. Everyone's got baggage or ghosts or whatever in the back of their mind, and that's because life hurts sometimes. But if we focus too much on the baggage and so forth, you're always looking at what you're carrying rather than where you're going. And I think that's one of the things that drives me. I'm, the eternal optimist.
Yeah.
Something will always be better, or I can make it better, or we can do this and it'll be better, or whatever, and move forward. And yes, something's gone wrong, and, okay, well, we are where we are now. There's nothing we can do about it, so let's make the most of what we got and move forward.
Yeah.
It drives my wife mad sometimes, but that's
the balance of the two of you as well.
That's just me. You got kicked in the guts. Okay, get up, brush yourself off, and let's go off and look at what life has to offer us now. It doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to get kicked in the guts again. You might, but
a bad day doesn't have to be a pattern observation. Yeah. Just for you then, is there a prayer that you sort of, what's the most common prayer that you would find for yourself? Because it does sound like help, but you are a man that helps. You are a helper by nature. You're a person that sees broken stuff and fixes it. You're a person, I believe, that sees broken things and goes, no, that thing could live again. And you and I are working on a project at the moment in a small church that has, physically broken down buildings and a very, very small congregation. And we believe that it could be something beautiful in its community again. It's still creating beauty, but certainly not at the capacity that it should.
No. It's got a future, though.
It's got a future. Is that the basic prayer for you? Show me the future.
my relationship with God and my prayer life, I suppose, is, I don't know how different it is for anyone else's, but it's not something that I sit there and have a list of things I need to pray about that and that and that. But it'll be me driving along in the car, just having a chat. I talk to him like I talk to you.
Yeah.
And it might only be for 2 minutes. Oh, yeah. You know, such and such is having a bit of a rough time. Look out for him, would you? That's how I talk to God, just like I would anybody else. I don't know. That's just seemed natural to me. The sitting down in a quiet room and so forth might work for other people where they, you know, do it in a more formal setting. Mine is just having a chat when the time is right to have a chat.
Yeah. And the reason I back that up is because that's pretty much how my world works. And some of my mentors taught me that it's okay to be, that's your spiritual practice. But I would say also today, as we've had this conversation, I've known you for a long time. I've learnt a lot about you, but even in this setting, we've been able to learn some more things about each other. And I am, I think impressed is the word I want to use, by the resilience, the compassion, the empathy, the change management that you've learnt in difficult times that you're still trying to apply, you know, and in the workplace and around the place. But also, I just want to make clear that difference between the mandate of a job and the mandate of being a presence in your home. Because a job has a task list to it and a focus, and it goes from 9 to 5 or whatever it does, and you get a paycheck at the end of it.
Yeah.
Being a father does not have those measures, never will and shouldn't have those measures.
And the scale on which you're judged is always changing, and you're never informed of what the
you don't know what the judges' scores are at any given time.
And every situation's different, and what you dealt with very well yesterday, you're probably going to stuff up tomorrow. Yeah. Because something will be different, and you'll miss it, and what have you. But I think that, going back to your earlier question, what's the job of a father? And one of them is to be resilient, because I don't know how many people out there live in a house full of females, but I do, and you can never judge properly what the right thing to say is at any point in time, and chances are 50-50 you're going to get it right one day and wrong the next. So live with it, be resilient, move on, and know that, you know, you haven't done any significant damage, but we always just try and do a little bit better and so forth. But, you know, you're never going to win all the time. But
no. And I think, again, going back to the risk management of parenting is acknowledging that you will fail a lot. So fail fast, learn faster, and move on. But actually, I shouldn't say it that way, because that sounds like too much pressure for people.
Try not to beat yourself up too much for your mistakes. That's it. Reflect on them, learn from them. Try not to be too hard on yourself. And that's one of the things I find myself saying a lot to my family is, okay, try not to be so hard on yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, okay.
If the drive-through person at McDonald's gets the fold on the bag wrong, life will move on. And if your child gets mad with you for something you don't understand, or your partner or whatever, life will move on. It's okay. The sun will rise tomorrow. Bring more compassion, bring more empathy, be a non-anxious and stable presence as best you can. And don't forget to ask Matt for help. Man, thank you so much for being on the pod.
Pleasure.
Bless you, man.
See ya.